The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Let's get to it. It's Monday. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. Hope you had an incredible weekend. It is week 2 as the portal turns. Some names to tell you about and a plethora of visitors this weekend. You can dial up. Join us as always. You're invited with Hail Varsity Radio at 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com and get into the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there. That's where you can watch the show daily, Monday through Saturday, and always find us on Hail Varsity Radio Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Can find Elijah on Twitter at Herbal Essence, at Schmidt_radio for me, at Justice Rhody, all one word, no underscores for Justice, as can check him out on Twitter. Some hoops to talk about. Volleyball king again. Death taxes in the Final Four for John Cook. What juice, what energy at the Devaney yesterday. Congratulations to Husker Volleyball. You get to just going off of the independent, want a good story versus rooting. I hope they bludgeon Penn State Thursday night. There, I said it. So Nebraska into the Final Four. Pretty awesome for Nebraska Volleyball. New name that we were talking about a while back, Addison Williams. That is the arrow, the trend for Nebraska as a secondary coach. Some names to know with the portal we'll get to. And how about Kansas City barbecue for you as you get ready for Thursday night football for Nebraska 2025 versus Cincinnati at Arrowhead. We are geared up. We are juiced for that. We have already got our hotel. We are plotting and planning the mother of all tailgate festivities / live pregame shows for that Thursday opener in 2025. But here and now, we're not far from a bowl game. We're not far from some potential ads for some portal potential ads for Nebraska football. And, oh, yeah, Husker Hoops. Elijah, you were there front and center.
Well, I wasn't front and center. Justice Rhody was front and center.
You were calling the game? Or you were student section?
In legitimately front row right in the middle. It's hard to miss the tall ginger.
Uh-huh. What's the curtain of shame? Is that what Arizona State has?
Yeah, the curtain of distraction.
The curtain of distraction, where some dudes will pop out in Speedos. There'll be, Wonder Woman posters. I mean, the folks in Tempe can get it going while you're trying to make a free throw. Nebraska has Justice Rhody underneath the basket. Flexing, scaring. Do you make off sounds? Do you try and stare and burn a hole through them? How do you distract Justice?
No, I chirp him. So first I asked Mike Woodson, I said, why would you take Bryson Tucker when you had Liam McNeely in your hands? After, complimenting all of his plays that ended up in turnovers. I asked Mackenzie Mbako, why are you a guy and your name's Mackenzie? That was just a blatant question.
Do you ever worry about when Hoosiers attack that soon to be released Malice in the Palace reenactment if you push them too far?
You think they're jumping in the crowd? I keep it PG. I try to go. I try to go.
There's no girlfriends or mothers comments.
No. We keep it PG. I like to think more along the lines of witty. So I asked Bryson Tucker. I said, "Are you a cabbage guy or a lettuce guy?" And that really got him thinking. He didn't know what to say about that.
You're the reason, not Fred's plan. Okay?
Oh no, Fred had a great plan. I'll say that much.
I like it. Who's with us to get things kicked off?
We got Steve from Lincoln.
All right, Steve, what's going on, man? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you, Chris and Elijah. Two things. One, your radio show is number one. You have the best guests.
You got to start the week off like this always. I love it, Steve. Appreciate it.
Yeah. The best guests, the great insight. again, your radio show for Husker football and other sports is number one. Second of all, I would like to remind Husker fans going to the Pinstripe Bowl, I recommend Knickerbockers, home of that famous 28-ounce T-bone steak, choice of mashed, fried potatoes, and special cream spinach.
Steve, you have never worked at Knickerbockers, just for the record.
What's that, sir?
So you have never worked at Knickerbockers in New York, for the record.
And you don't have ownership stake?
Yeah, there's no ownership stake.
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. I've only ate there. It's so awesome to eat there. I just had to share my experience.
That's
I have no ownership. I've never worked there, but it is. I just found it to be a spectacular dining experience.
Steve,
at a moderate, great price.
We will pass that along, and hopefully Nebraska fans are taking notes. And for the record, too, Steve, appreciate you, man. We'll hope to see you up at Ameristar on the 27th of December, a week from Friday Roadshow. Appreciate you, man, for calling. Steve does not work for us either.
No,
he's just
not.
a loyal, wonderful listener.
Yeah, that's the thing is we're not paying him for the free shout-out, so I doubt Knickerbockers is paying him for free shout-outs on the radio as well. But if you go, tell him Steve sent you.
Yes, for sure. And let's give Steve some love and some help there. We can start off with a lot of things, but I want to start off with volleyball, just to give it its due recognition. And you know, they are incredible. They are in rarefied air with what they do every year, with how they recruit, with how they develop, with how they play in big moments. You had that rally in set one where it was just vintage greatness with both teams. About 60 seconds of back and forth, Nebraska getting the point. And it was awesome to hear John Baylor say it one more time on the way to the Final Four, call the grandkids. It's so good. And this is wonderful. And shout out to Creighton, too, because that was on our TVs last night. We were pulling for Creighton to whack Penn State. You get to that fifth set, and it's so difficult on the road in that venue to pull it off. But Creighton has nothing to blink about. They were there.
Especially in a fifth set in that venue, whenever you find yourself down by 1 or 2 points, you can find that set getting away from you very quickly. Yeah. That's kind of what happened with Creighton last night.
It was quite entertaining.
You know what's incredible about that Creighton season? I know this is a Huskers show, but I do want to give Creighton their flowers.
They're awesome, man.
3 losses this season. All of them were in 5 sets, and all of them came to future Final Four teams. And
you know, it goes a different way sometime from a host standpoint.
Yep.
I mean, Creighton's Final Four good.
And I will comfortably call that team the 5th best team in the country. That's what the results have showed us.
And
comfortably, I will say 5th best
quite
team.
frank, the 3 of the 4 that are in the Final Four are glad to not see Creighton again.
100%.
Right? So on to Nebraska, though. They will touch gloves a third time against Penn State Thursday night. Of course, Louisville and Pitt on the other side of the bracket, and a lot of chalk, but it is greatness. You've got Harper doing her thing. Lexi was special. When we were talking with Bill Dolman Friday, we asked him about the volleyball preview, and he talked about Nebraska's defense. Brandon Vogel reiterated that as well on the Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity, with just how key it was for Nebraska to protect the floor, and that was your difference. I mean, you had shots that Wisconsin hit that scores points 99 out of 100 times against other teams, but not against John Cook and the defense.
Not against Lexi Rodriguez.
No. I mean,
what a game
unreal.
she had yesterday.
18 digs, just phenomenal, and now, such a specialist.
Now finds herself 8 digs away from the all-time school record.
She's going to get it.
I think she'll be getting that on Thursday night, so that'll be another accolade for her illustrious Husker career.
Think about school records at certain schools. And if you're the all-time digs leader at Nebraska, I mean, that's up there with all-time rushing leader. That's up there with touchdown. I mean, that from a status standpoint, it's super, super impressive. So, I mean, kudos to Husker volleyball.
Yeah, it's something special to pass up Justine Wong-Arantes, who is, an Olympian.
yeah, an Olympian. That's about right. We'll get our starting 5 shout-outs going here. On the Stream Hail Varsity YouTube. We'll dive in on Addison Williams. That's the name, the former Central Florida defensive coordinator. Could be Nebraska's secondary coach. Let's tell you about the guests as we will look you up and down in that Blackshirt Hour with Charlie McBride. Mr. Blackshirt will join us, as always, on a Monday at 5. Jay Moore with us at 5:25. Can't wait to talk to Tim Verghese, get his pulse on the portal and a thought or two on where Nebraska's going in that secondary and his thoughts on Addison Williams. So Tim Verghese inside Nebraska Rivals.com as well. Guys, let's talk Thursday Night Football. Let's talk Nebraska-Cincinnati. It's Arrowhead, and I know it's not a Saturday night in Kansas City flavor because you've got the Royals playing Saturday night, so logistically it might have been a nightmare. You don't want to do an Arrowhead game if you're Cincinnati and grant those rights and move it from a home venue at the University of Cincinnati. You knew you really couldn't fill Indy, so you go to Kansas City to take the ticket sales. It's your technically home game, but it'll be a lot of Nebraska fans. It'll be mostly Nebraska fans, so you're selling your home site to get more ticket sales. That being said, you're going to get probably 6:30, or 7 kickoff. It's official, though, Thursday in Arrowhead. That came down earlier today. Love it. I was down there in 98 for the goal line stand with Bad Mother Rucker and Mike Brown. Surviving Oklahoma State was down there in Arrowhead for Nebraska, Oklahoma. Big 12 championship in 2006. And it's been a while. I mean, those are the 2 times Nebraska's been to Arrowhead. And you've kind of wanted it to happen again. You're getting it to start the college football season next season. Business to do this year with the bowl game. But what an opportunity. And again, it's a showcase for the Big Red.
Not starting the college football season, but pretty close.
I mean, you still have Ireland, right?
Iowa State, K-State, and Ireland this year. That's a good game. I'll watch that.
That's Farmageddon.
Yeah, but they're doing it week 0, which is a little bit interesting. Well, that's what the schedule says for now.
That's what I mean. Yeah, okay.
So that technically is going to open the season, but this is like what's going to kick off the real week because the other Thursday night
on the
games, mainland.
This is your first game.
The other games you're dealing with on that Thursday night: Buffalo at Minnesota. You got Scott Frost hosting Jacksonville State. So you got Jacksonville State, UCF. App State versus Charlotte. None of these games are really all that intriguing until you get down to Nebraska versus Cincinnati. So it's going to be a game that a lot of people are paying attention to on that Thursday night.
If you're a Nebraska fan, it better not be intriguing.
And I would call, like, if you're talking about opening the college football season, Kansas State, Iowa State is like the free chips and salsa they bring to the table. You're like, oh, this is nice, but like, when does the real food start coming? I think
I'd say
Nebraska
first round of drinks.
Maybe. Nebraska Cincinnati.
Good appetizer.
Yes, it is. Nebraska Cincinnati is like what really kicks it off. That's the first bite of the entree.
That's your 2-inch thick T-bone down at the Majestic. Sorry, free shout out down in Kansas City. Yeah, that's just me. But no, I can't wait to map the plans out with Rob the Suit, with you, and some of our other crazy buddies that want a road trip down to a Thursday extravaganza of radio and YouTube shows.
Oh, I can't wait.
Right?
Let's get that party started early.
Yeah?
We'll make the for your morning show, we'll make the KF4 tailgate literal.
Yes.
6 a.m. tailgate.
Wherever Schmidt passes out, Schmidt will wake up and turn the mic on. Kidding. That isn't me anymore. Okay, let's get to the starting 5 shout-outs. Justin is in. The other Dave is here. Jeff says, hello, friends. Hello, Jeff. Mike from Cali is in. Michael is here, screaming GBR. Andrew checks in. Arlo is here. Great Red Shark is in. Also, Talk, good to have you. Black Hills Brandon saying howdy, hello. We have NASCAR Eric says, what's up, fellas? How crazy a week are we going to have? NASCAR Eric, I think you could have a good week when it comes to portal for Nebraska. Jeff Snitley in, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. We love the Snitley boys. I think they're already RSVPing for Kansas City, which will be great. We don't need a Kansas City peace treaty. We didn't. We almost had an Iowa City peace treaty with the Snitleys. That was fun. Uncle Larry is here. The real Matthew is in. I love it to have Matthew checking in as well. And we have some more comments. Ronnie is here in the Big Red Drama. Scott is here. The other Snitley boy, Brian, appreciate you for coming in. Tim is here from Idaho, and more comments to get in. Brent here as well. So plenty going on. Trevor is here as well. So a lot going on. Oh, we have Ed Foley making a return appearance here in the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Hey, Chris, the fans are back on my side. I got you guys a long snapper and a few more surprises to come. So I love that the Coach Foley.
What if that's actually him?
I don't know.
I don't think it is.
I don't think so either. If it is you, Ed Foley, we need you to upload a picture of you by a nacho bar in a convenience store, putting nacho cheese on your Fairbury brand hot dog.
Yeah, okay.
You know, the dog rollers, that is signature Ed. And we know it is Ed then.
Okay, yeah. I could also pull a prank, but we'll see. No, that is my favorite snack, which sounds horrible. That sounds horrible. But the gas station by my house did away with their hot dog rollers. So
why?
That's been tough.
I've thought about buying one of those.
A hot dog roller?
Yeah, and just putting it in the basement.
You need a bun steamer too?
You need one and the other.
Yeah, exactly. It's a package deal.
It's complimentary football, Elijah. That's what we need.
Run the damn ball.
Right. Phil not being nice to if that is Ed Foley in the stream. We'll check in with Tim Verghese next to Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out on a Monday at Hail Varsity. Tim Verghese with us inside NebraskaRivals.com at Tim Verghese. That's where you follow him on Twitter. YouTube, you can find him and Steve Marek as they do a couple of 3 shows a week to check out. Tim, thanks for the time, man. It is portal season week 2, and let's talk to start things off with Nebraska's quarterback portal target. You have Marcos Davila, the quarterback out of Purdue. Tim, some pretty big-time offers during the high school recruiting phase. A&M Colorado, he ended up at Purdue. And let's talk about Marcos and Nebraska. What do you think?
Yeah, a bit of a surprise seeing him get into town. I covered Marcos in high school. He was really fun to cover because it was a young prospect out of, at the time it was Midland Lee. A guy that, I really enjoyed kind of watching him develop at the high school level, just from he was a big arm and a big frame, but really putting it together where, he could deliver with accuracy and decisiveness across the field. And so we got to see that kind of develop through his high school career. But he's an unfinished product, and I think when you saw his recruitment develop the way it did, it came down to Purdue, TCU, West Virginia, wanted to play that Graham Harrell offense is something where, his arm can kind of push the ball downfield, somewhat, easy reads. And so you see the transition to a Dana Holgorsen offense, which has a lot of those similar concepts and uses a lot of the same language at the very least. He's a guy that, I think he recognizes that he's a year or 2 away from being ready to contribute at a Power 5 or Power 4 level. And so for him, I think this is a good move. If Nebraska does, pull the trigger and offer and does potentially try to bring him in as some QB depth, this is a good opportunity for him to kind of sit and develop for a year or 2 and then potentially compete for that job down the line. Now, as for, what is Nebraska's plan? I think they kind of see the QB board and every board at this point as something that's fluid year to year. You're not getting this guy, hypothetically getting this guy with the expectation that, hey, he's going to be competing with TJ Lateef in 2 years. You don't know if Marcus Davila is going to be here in 2 years. You don't know if TJ Lateef's going to be here in 2 years. So more than anything, Nebraska needs a third QB. They need another one on the depth chart. And Marcus is a guy that has some familiarity with the offense, has some familiarity with playing in the Big Ten, has the size, to stick around at this level, and has some developmental upside as well. And I think Nebraska's intrigued, at the very least, to kind of check out and figure out what the upside is.
And Tim, he's a guy that I know Dana Holgorsen wanted out of high school. Houston was in that group of teams recruiting him. That was before Dana was fired, obviously, and that kind of killed some things. But whenever you look at him, I hate to throw this around, but he's from Texas, plays baseball, likes to throw on the run. You sometimes see in the high school highlights throwing from different arm slots. Do you know where I'm going with this? He kind of feels...
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. Little Mahomey, as Chris Collingsworth would say.
And that's
Why
the
not?
thing, too. That's the thing, too. It's like, when you're living in this world now where Dylan Raiola is your starting quarterback for the foreseeable future, you want someone behind him that can do similar things to him. TJ Lateef does a lot of things similar to him. And Davila does as well. And the whole reason you do that is, okay, hypothetically, God forbid, your starting quarterback goes down. You want someone that you're not having to completely shift the offense into something completely different. It always frustrated me, not in this program specifically, but in other programs where they have a dynamic QB1, but then the guy behind him is just like, a regular old like pro style guy, or, does something completely different, is a different type of quarterback. You have to change your whole offense for that guy. Now you're running an offense where, and we know, hearing from Matt Rule and the staff, how important practice is, how important getting live reps is. Now it's a thing where the defense can practice against a few guys that present them the similar challenges that Dylan Raiola presents teams on a week-to-week basis.
Tim, want to get your thoughts on some other portal names, and Isaiah Worrell, the offensive tackle that Nebraska looking at. Of course, there's some other programs, A&M, Oregon, the Nevada standout. We're talking 900 or close to 900 snaps, no sacks allowed. And Nebraska's looking at a lot of guys, not just Worrell, but other potential players, both sides of the football, Tim, that are coming up a level. They're coming up from a G5 to try and play in a Big Ten, a little Signetti flavor to it, if I want to draw a comparison. But what do you think of Worrell? What do you think of Nebraska's prospects with him?
Yeah, Worrell, I think, we're still kind of shuffling our, transfer portal rankings, but I think when the dust kind of settles, I think he's going to end up being one of, if not the top tackle prospect in the transfer portal. The stats kind of speak for itself. He's got 32 starts under his belt. Has played a lot of football, has the size, has put on the weight, came out of high school at 270 pounds, has put on 40 pounds over the course of his college career. He's sitting around 310 at 6'8". Is a guy that wherever he goes is going to be a starting tackle. There's no question about that at this point where, he's got the likes of A&M involved. He was at A&M over the weekend. A&M tried to prevent him from coming to Nebraska and even delayed that trip as long as they could, extended their visit as long as they legally could, to the point that, he could potentially be dissuaded from coming. But he made it to Lincoln last night. And then he's still got plans to see Ohio State and Oregon as well. There's some confidence in Columbus, but, I think the Oregon wrench and the Nebraska wrench has kind of thrown, kind of hit that confidence a little bit. It's one of those recruitments that I think is going to be one that kind of goes down to the wire as much as it can in terms of the portal. I think over the next couple of weeks, I think he's going to evaluate all of his options. He's got a lot of really good ones. I think Nebraska, he was at the volleyball game last night. I think Nebraska being able to showcase an environment for him goes a long way. He spent the full day in Lincoln today. From an NIL standpoint, Nebraska just getting him on campus kind of tells you that they're in the market with these other schools, that they're able to give an offer that's competitive with other programs involved. Ultimately, it'll come down to fit and what he's looking for. At the end of the day, you could go to Oregon, where Oregon is well poised, to repeat, next year to win the Big Ten and keep the train rolling. You could go to Ohio State, where they have a good shot of doing the same thing. A&M, compete in the SEC. But Nebraska, I think, presents an opportunity to almost guaranteed see the field as the starter. And I think it also provides the opportunity for him to kind of, be a part of something as well. He's got 1 year. I think he's looking to, kind of be a part of something. And so we'll see. I think this is a group that he's by far from decided at this point. I think he's going to take his visits and kind of sit down and make that decision. But Nebraska getting him on campus in the first place, I think, is a really, really big deal. And we'll see. I do think that environment from last night's going to stick with him a little bit.
Tim Verghese here with us. Tim, I wanted to ask you, this is a guy that I have been, banging the drum for ever since he entered the portal. Eric Rivers from FIU, AP third-team All-American, recently named that, over 1,000 yards at FIU as a Panther. Well, can you give me the makeup? I know he's still in town today, took a 2-day visit, yesterday and today. Can you give me the makeup? Where does Nebraska stand? How do they look for a guy that's had a ton of production at the smaller level?
I think they did a really good job with the visit this weekend, just from what I've been able to gather. I think he's a guy that fits, when you look at a Dana Holgorsen offense and the wide receivers that are productive in those offenses, he fits that mold. And I think he's a guy that can line up, he's a guy that in Nebraska's scheme, probably best fits in the slot, but he's played the majority of his snaps at outside receiver at FIU. He's a guy that some of his best production has come on deep shots, and then he's got over 200 yards after the catch on catches that have come inside 10-yard line or 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's a big deal. That's a guy that can turn short gains and make them explosives. A guy that can take the top off of defenses. One of those dynamic kind of weapons, and it's like if you were to look at it, like that's a guy that you point to Ja'Cory Barney and say, hey, Ja'Cory, when you're another stage or two of development, you can look like him. Like that's kind of what the mold is if you're looking for like a prospect type comp. And I feel good about Nebraska there. We'll see how the rest of these visits he's got planned go. I think he's got he's trying to figure out kind of what he wants to end up doing. And whether he makes these visits or not. This portal is so fluid at this point. It legitimately wouldn't surprise me if he leaves Nebraska and shuts things down, or if he leaves Nebraska and decides to go on 2 more visits and then around this time next week makes a final decision. But I feel good about what Nebraska did, the impression they've made this weekend. I think at this point, I think I'm close to confident in saying I think Nebraska is going to be able to land 2 of the 3 of Eric Rivers, Najee Hunter, and Dane Key. I think 2 of those 3 end up in Lincoln. And if not, it's going to be a school that currently isn't in the mix, kind of taking one final swing or making one aggressive push for those 3 guys.
Well, take me through Key and Hunter, if you don't mind, Tim. Feels like with Key, it might be down to Nebraska and Georgia. I know both those schools making strong runs at him. As of Hunter, he's got plenty of suitors in the portal. What can you tell us about those 2?
So Key's taken an interesting twist. He was at Ole Miss over the weekend. South Carolina's also in that mix, I believe. Georgia's also in that mix. There's a feeling around him that he could end up in the SEC, but ultimately, I think it just depends on if he makes it to Nebraska or not. He's scheduled to be in town later this week. If that visit actually happens and he ends up in Lincoln, I feel better about Nebraska's shot. I think Dylan Raiola has done a really good job of taking this peer recruiting role on. I think, the opportunity to team up with Dekel Shorts, I think the offense that Dana Holgorsen provides can all do a good job of persuading him. And I think something Nebraska has that some of these other programs, in the mix for him don't, is quarterback. South Carolina obviously has Sellers, but I think Nebraska can be like, hey, we've got our guy coming back. We're going to be playing in this offense. You saw what we were able to do the last 2 weeks of the season, and you see what this quarterback's been able to do. This is our guy that's returning, while Georgia's got a bit of a quarterback, decision on their hands here in this offseason. And Ole Miss does as well. I think Austin Simmons showed some good things in relief of Jackson Dart, but I don't think it's a done deal that he's for sure the starter. I think if you're comparing those programs, I think QB consistency, I think favors Nebraska. With Hunter, I think he's trying to make a quick decision. I think he's trying to, kind of get his ducks in order. He's going to visit Nebraska and Kansas State this week. There's a lot of confidence around Nebraska right now, like kind of talking to people last night and into this morning and kind of figuring out, where does Nebraska stand here even before he's made it into town officially. There's some confidence that Nebraska can get him in town and potentially get him to shut things down, before he even makes it to Kansas State. So we'll see what happens.
Tim, 30 seconds. Addison Williams, Central Florida, D.C., the projected secondary coach. What do you think of him?
Very solid recruiter. Has done a really good job down there in Florida and down in the Southeast area in general. I think his past defense over the last few years kind of speaks for itself. I think it more than anything, it's where we're seeing Nebraska's kind of staff evolve, where each position group is fully in charge of their own unit. They all have experience to potentially cross-train and do different things as well. But it feels like, we're getting this NFL model where, from the top down, everyone's in charge of their own thing. And ultimately, they all answer to one guy that's in charge on both sides. That's Dana Holgorsen and Phil Snow / John Butler.
Sure. And overseeing all of that is Coach Rule. Yep, Nebraska, your favorite NFL team. I love it. Tim, you take care. We'll holler next time. Appreciate you, bud.
Yes, sir. Talk next week.
All right, more with Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Open phones here till 5, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Tim checking in. his comments on special teams. We have Kamala in the chat. Ed Foley has been taking some arrows in the stream, but Ed's been talking it up as well. 489-1240. We'll have more of your comments in the stream. Always log on. Check us out on the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Brian, a good comment here. So we're talking about Isaiah World, offensive tackle. It says, to land World, Nebraska's going to have to pony up $1 million plus. And that, fellas, we're not shocked at I'm not shocked by the going rate. That's what it's going to cost you for a guy with 30-plus starts. That's what it's going to cost you for a guy that was all conference, even at the Mountain. And I'm not dissing the Mountain West level. I'm just saying what you want is a guy who's performed at a level, dominated at a level, and then you have him jump that level. The guy looks like he can play. It was the world of college football that made the mistake where he ended up at Nevada. It wasn't a him problem. So I have no problem with it. I mean, I'm not going to turn my nose up and say, "Oh God, what the hell's the world coming to?" Drop, no pun intended, dropping 7 figures on players. You're already doing it. Okay, you're already doing it, and you're going to do it at premium spots. And Matt Rule's laid it out where it's slotted, just like the NFL. Your edge rusher, your quarterback, your left tackle are going to be your highest paid dudes on the team. It's up to you to pay the right guys, as Nick Saban once said during College Game Day. So the thing for me is about evaluation. Make sure the guy's a fit and it doesn't go sideways from a chemistry or performance standpoint. Elijah and Justice, you can't miss on the guy you're shelling out 7 figures to, or high 6 figures, right? Let's just walk down a world where you're spending a lot of money on your 5-star quarterback. Duh, right? You've got to be competitive to what the Oregons and Ohio States and Georgias and Texases already are paying, and Floridas. Okay, you're not winning at the level of Oregon or Ohio State or Texas right now. Florida's got a little bit of an edge to you right now, but you're kind of in the same boat, right? Trying to reclaim glory. So your starting point's at quarterback. You got to go get that tackle, and I don't know the exact number what you spent on Williams Nwaneri, but I would imagine you're probably heavily invested in a former 5-star. You better be able to get him or whoever it is, insert position and reboot wherever. If you're going to invest that kind of jack, you better be able to connect with and then get great performance out of them.
And think about it's multifaceted. And there's a quick note here before we get back into this conversation. Tim just tweeted this out. He had a quick update to what he said, calling Isaiah World the best tackle prospect in the portal right now. We got word during last segment that Washington State left tackle Fa'alili Fa'amo,
okay,
I think I got that right, from American Samoa has entered his name into the transfer portal with 1 year left of eligibility. Does that shake things up in the market at all? Maybe. He's a very, very good offensive tackle that is going to be a 1 year plug and play.
Washington State's been a good program the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, he's been a 2 or a 3 year starter out there. They moved him from defensive end to offensive tackle. Went from 216 pounds to 315 pounds in college, which some of us also put on a few pounds in college.
We can all do that. he just did it and started on the second premier spot on offense.
So that is something to note here. Is World still a highly coveted tackle prospect? Yes. Does that maybe change the bidding market? You don't know.
Well, be right on who you think's better and go get them.
That's what I was going to say here is you better be right on who is better. Especially, are they better than what we've got, to bring back the old Scott Frost quote? Because think about it. If you're going to your NIL collective and saying, hey, we got this offensive tackle or input position here that, hey, we're going to need north of $1 million to go land for 1 to 2 years, come in and be a difference maker. What happens whenever that guy no longer is your starter? Let's say he doesn't win the starting job in fall camp. Let's say he gets benched throughout the season. Like, I don't want to bring
up a wonderful depth piece.
Well, like look at what Nebraska brought in last year in the transfer portal, and Micah Mazuka, who I think we all think
probably
is
your
really
best
good.
Offensive lineman.
Didn't start, didn't play, to the point where you'd think he was the best offensive lineman just purely on his face because you go, why isn't that guy starting? If you're shelling out $1 million, and I don't know what the NIL offer, transfer portal details were for Mazuka or 100% of what was going on behind the scenes this year, but what do your folks that are donating you money, the folks in your NIL collective, going to say whenever they have ponied up $1 million for some player and you get to mid-September and you say, why is that guy second on the depth chart?
Here's your answer, okay? If you got to go to your NIL dudes and say, all right, thanks for passing the offering plate, thanks for writing the check. We have been able to energize the offensive line to the point where a guy that has been on campus that we've been developing flat out beat out a guy at guard, okay? So we have insurance. You twist the conversation into it's $1 million insurance policy, right? We've got a guy that we thought was going to come in and take the job. We like what he can do, but what we already had here, man, we've really got them to step their game up. So be it, and you're just that much better off as a team, and that's just kind of price of doing business.
It's okay if you win football games.
Right.
It's not okay if you're 6-6.
It's not okay if you're 6-6 and you're still chasing
because
three.
the next offseason, the team comes back to me, this high money donor who wants to bring in folks in the portal via NIL, and I say,
and it's a little harder ask.
That guy gave you $1 million for.
Can I get $2 million this year, and we'll go 8-5?
Man, that just call. If I'm the NIL, I'm giving out snarky responses. Oh, you need $2 million for a bench player this year? Like it just becomes so much more difficult. That's why you got to be right, not just so you get the results on the field, but to keep the people that are giving you money happy.
I can hear Elijah's snarky response. Yeah, you want $1.5 million this time? Go something.
Well, but like let's spin it this way. Like, what if your development and retention has worked out so well that you do bring in $1 million insurance policy and the guy you have is just flat out better? What if you bring in Isaiah World and you have a Grant Bricks and he ends up beating the guy out? I mean, doesn't that also speak to your development and retention?
But that also begs the question:
do you have retention anymore?
The question that brings up, though, is why are you bringing in a $1 million+ insurance policy? You don't do that. If you're going to go spend that money in the portal, you need to be bringing in a starter. It's as simple as that. You need to be bringing in a guy who is going to... You need to be bringing
in a difference maker. Yes.
That's tough for me to say.
One of the 11, right? I mean, look at Miami, right? Look at Cam Ward and whatever the hell they spent.
And if we're talking
quarterback, that's your difference maker.
Well, I've said this before. I don't think you go into the portal saying this guy is going to be first team all conference, but you go into the portal saying this guy is going to be a solid Big Ten piece for us that is going to be a member of your starting 11 that is going to help you win. And if, hey, that person ends up being a first team all conference guy, you say awesome, but you can't put those expectations on guys in the portal because we've heard it plenty from Coach Barnett. There's a reason guys are always in the portal. You need to find a way to turn them into a solid and consistent starter first, and if you luck out and happen to get yourself a first-team all-conference guy...
No, portal is still straight up. It should be supplementation, right? It just should be, but the going rate, the free market right now is... All right, Nebraska wants another tackle. Do they have tackles on the roster? Absolutely they do. Are they going to be ready to ball beyond this opener next year?
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out, winding down hour one. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and Justice Rhody with us. About 10 minutes away, it is Charlie McBride time, a Monday with Charlie. Coach McBride going to join us. Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, part of the party here in the Blackshirt Hour, next hour with Hail Varsity. Like and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube podcast is there for you to take along anytime you want. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Just search Hail Varsity Radio. Give us a response. Give us a rating, good, bad, ugly. We'll take the feedback. We love your thoughts and feedback as well. Reminder, coming up Friday the 27th of December, we're on a bit of a best of sprint during this holiday season, starting with Christmas Eve. We'll be back and live. We'll keep doing the weekend editions for sure. But the Monday through Friday shows, aside from December 27th, some best ofs coming up. We will be live at Ameristar 4 to 6 that Friday, December 27th. We invite you out across the river, getting all your bowl picks going. Of course, Nebraska, Boston College, the 28th. and plenty of basketball to gear up for and NFL action as well. So excited to be on the road, back at it one more time before the new year at Ameristar December 27th. Reminder to get buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Moonbot is here. Craig checks in and is asking what the Boulder Peace Treaty is. I believe the Snitleys are in the stream chat. Maybe they can break it down. I think I've reset this once or twice a month.
I think at this point we just need to create a page on Google titled What is the Boulder Peace Treaty? So people can just Google it and quickly find out.
But Craig, it was a bartender in Boulder in, was this a season ago?
2022. 2023.
2023, that Colorado game that didn't end well. Bartender with man bun, and that's
Important detail.
Shut off some Husker fans at the bar, saying you've had too much, and the Snitley boys negotiated
After having had too much.
Well, they were guilt by association. Yes. Some other Nebraska fan lost his wallet, got shut off. The bartender in Boulder shut off everybody in red that day. We weren't wearing red because we were there covering the game as professionals. And the Snitley boys, with their silver tongues, love them, were able to get the beer turned back on.
Yes.
No more hard drinks, but beer was okay. To reverse course, that's why we have deemed it the Boulder Peace Treaty. Some names to know. Of course, we have talked to Marcos Davila, the quarterback from Purdue that's checking out Lincoln. Isaiah World, the offensive tackle from Nevada. Some other names, and you have Eric Rivers, Elijah, that you've checked in on. You have Dane as well, the wideout from Kentucky. Hunter is a 3-year player that's in the portal from Cal at 6'2". There's high interest with Nebraska there. And a couple of other names. Jonah Pace from Central Michigan. Gaitis, the offensive tackle from Michigan. I should say the center, from Michigan. Played half the year as starter there. So those are names to look at as Nebraska in pursuit with a lot of the college football world. And the kid out of Oregon State, Wesolak, the Oregon State player that was at Missouri. He's an outside backer to look at.
And Justice and him duked it out in the basketball court. We'll have to get that story.
Huh.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. It's Hour 2. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and Justice Rhody. It's Blackshirt time. Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. A Monday with Charlie. Coach, how we doing? Thanks for a few minutes. What's a good word today?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like running into somebody, you know?
You ready for the bowl game, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm ready. I tell you. God, it's been a long time. But
I know.
I mean, if you feel that way when you're 85 years old, you must be something wrong with you.
I just think you're naturally fired up, Coach. That's okay. A lot to talk about, but I want to start off with the scheduling announcement for Nebraska football. They'll open the 2025 season in Kansas City at Arrowhead on a Thursday night. And I know you were running the defense that 1998 season, the goal line stand to stop Oklahoma State. I think it was Rex Ryan that ran a 46 off defensively against the Husker offense. But Kansas City, a fun place to play. I know it's a fun place you like to recruit.
It's a good place. We had a lot of fun. I mean, the game was nice down there. You know, I don't know for sure. Are they still on natural grass?
They are, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that'll be good, though. I mean, not that it's any big deal, but I think it's going to give our players a chance if they decide to go that way in our stadium. Mm-hmm. It'll give all of us some idea what, how it is, how they like it. because by then it'll probably be a little. It'll be early in the year, and it'll be in good shape.
No, for sure. Coach, Nebraska moving the direction of a former defensive coordinator. It's not official yet, but the name we're hearing is Addison Williams as the secondary coach, and he was under Gus Malzahn as defensive coordinator at Central Florida. His secondaries had been pretty good down there. Also can recruit Florida and Georgia and some of the Southeast. And do you like having another set of eyes, another coordinator on that side of the football?
Well, if you might make them all coordinators, what the heck? But I think that's good. I mean, when you can get a guy that you feel is qualified to do the job, and it has a good feel of a recruiting area, that's really helps because it's just a plus. Mm-hmm. And the same thing. I think a lot of times what they'll do is. What he may do is it'll just be Florida. It'll, and it won't be all up and down the coast or anything like that. And so he'll be able to concentrate on, I always used to say, concentrate on greatness. You know what I mean? and really find out about the kid. That's important because, when they walk off and do something, we had that happen to us with California kids a couple of times, and it gets a little depressing. You work like heck to get the kid, then before even practice starts, they disappear, mm-hmm. And that can happen. And but if you find out that the kid, if you get to know the kid real good, that's a plus.
It's Coach Charlie McBride with us here, another Black Shirt Monday with Coach. And Charlie, whenever we look at Addison Williams, we talked last week about the too many cooks in the kitchen. You essentially said, well, the more the merrier with the opinions because everyone's got their own kind of different pieces of expertise. Everyone's got their own opinion. You can come together and formulate different game plans. Whenever you do have multiple guys on staff with histories of being a defensive coordinator, how do you handle disagreements between those things? Obviously, you want to come together and find the best solution, but how does that actually work whenever you and another coach maybe disagree about a game plan or something of the sort?
Well, let me say this. We had about 4 guys that were working on defense. We didn't have so many. We had 4 guys, and 4 guys smarter than 1 guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And what I always used to do is we used to stamp it and kind of vote for it. There might be 3-1 or something like that if it is 1 guy. But if there's 3 guys that agree that that's the thing to do, then you just go ahead and stamp it, and that guy's going to fall into place. You make that known, before you start. We never had too much of that problem. We had a lot of times some guys wanted to get too much, get a little too fancy. And you just have to know the kids real good and know which guys can't handle it right away. And some guys it takes longer than others. And so you just have to be careful how much stuff you're putting in, because if you want to be a football coach, you can be a football coach. But if you want to be a rocket scientist, go get a damn job somewhere else.
I was going to ask you, Coach, how fancy do you have to be on defense?
No, you don't have to be fancy. We did it, like I said before, we did it by disguising our coverage. We didn't have many covers. We didn't have much stuff in the secondary. We had our share, but not a lot. And walkthroughs helps. Mm-hmm. But as much as they're doing shifting and double shifting and doing all that stuff, you better not get too fancy because you have check calls to make. Mm-hmm. And we tried to eliminate those things, those check calls. And of course, the other thing we did do was all but maybe 1 guy or 2 guys we never switch personnel. I mean, you'll have a dime back or nickel back or whatever you want to call it. Usually we had one guy, and most of the time it was our Sam back, or we'd change to get another defensive back in the game. But he played the position, and most of the time, I mean, so we tried to get guys that could really run, and that eliminated a lot of the personnel change and in the game. If they get going fast, it's pretty tough to do. So you really have to work on your normal guys, and if you're switching 3 and 4 guys in different situations, it does get to be a problem.
Charlie McBride's with us on Monday with Coach McBride here, Monday with Charlie, Hail Varsity Radio. And, Coach, I want to ask you kind of the checklist or how deep a dive you guys went in on with a kid when you were taking a JUCO kid. And I ask the JUCO part because, with the portal era right now, there's so many options. You can still go JUCO. Singleton was a JUCO kid, and he's a good ball player. He's Nebraska's safety. But right now, it's you gotta go and be right with your high school kids and develop them. But you have the opportunity to add to your roster where your roster might be a little short from year to year with the portal now. As you look at how you guys evaluated JUCO kids, what was that process like? Because you didn't take a lot, but when you did take them, a lot of them were home runs.
No, we didn't take. If we, for example, I mean, if we had needed a tight end, if we definitely had a place for a tight end and a chance that he's going to play, I mean, you don't want to just recruit a junior college guy just because he's a good player and then he sits on the bench.
Right.
So that's really hard, hard on the kids because they're in junior college. They got 2 years left, so maybe 3, and it's better to have them, the positions for them.
Right.
That's drawn up. And I remember, I think the first guy that I remember was maybe Mark Dufresne, and back in that we got when I came in, and we didn't have a tight end, and I think in one of the bowl games he really performed, and it might not have been him exactly, but it was a tight end for sure. A punter can be the same thing.
Sure.
You lose a punter or get a guy hurt or something, or you'll always like to have a backup guy. And if they understand that you're the backup guy, but you're going to play, then it's sometimes a little different because if you lie to a kid, you're a liar.
Right.
And it just doesn't work that way. And it can be a cancer on your team. If a guy comes in and he thinks he's going to play and he doesn't play. So you have to really be careful. And so we didn't take junior college kids unless we really had a position open.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, that's pretty fascinating to kind of hear and kind of that pinpoint and target a spot. With Nebraska, it looks like they're looking at some wide receiver upgrades, Coach, some offensive line spots, maybe a center, maybe an offensive tackle. There's a quarterback that's in town out of Purdue to give them some depth as well. And we talk about the money that NIL will provide to be part of that competitive decision-making. And what do you look forward to with an offensive tackle or even a center? What do you need if you go portal, and what do you want coming in? Do you look at the level they're playing at, or you just look at the film and it speaks for itself?
Well, you're looking for a center probably more than you want to right now. And so that position is open. I mean, when that kid sees that and hears that, and knows you're not feed them any bull. It's important. And I think that was the case along with our last center we had, and he turned out to be a good player. Mm-hmm. It really will help you. That kind of helps with the junior college thing. The thing we like to do, and we lost a couple of kids on the team. A receiver from Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Thing. Those are the kind of kids you like to develop. That happens. That happened to us a lot. And the thing is, those kids mature in 1 year, or it might take them 2. But all of a sudden, you see them catching 5 balls for touchdowns in one game, or something like that, and they come around. Mm-hmm. But you have to be patient with them. And we just didn't like to. See him go. I know Coach Osborne wanted every coach. If we had a kid that wanted to go somewhere else, we want him to leave happy. In other words, get him another school or get something for him, and not just push him out the door. Mm-hmm. And that was just the way it was. I mean, that's what Coach Osborne wanted, and we felt like so that every kid we did lose either understood exactly, and his parents understood if it was a drug situation or if it was something else, mm-hmm. that grades or something like that. Well, we didn't want to just throw the kid out the door, and we wanted to be sure that he had something. And then he wasn't mad at the university for doing what they did or whatever the case is.
Right.
So that's what you really want to, look out for is, things that, not being honest, but I think, bringing in a JC center or something like that where your alignment is always going to be a plus, mm-hmm. Because most of the time they're backup linemen, and a lot of the times, in the line, I know on defensive line, I coached both sides, and I always coach for depth.
Sure.
I mean, it was so that you had three guys that you could put in the game. You weren't afraid to put them in. But we, every year, for example, we had at least 3 to 4 defensive linemen and 5 or 6 offensive linemen. We had to have that, and that was our recruiting numbers, and that's what we did when we were recruited. We went around the table and talked if our tight end coach needed a tight end, and we know we're going to take 2 of them maybe, or maybe we're going to take 1. So when you get down into the recruiting, you tell the kid, we're recruiting 5 guys. And here they are. Here are their names. Here they are. And the first guy that pops, or the first 2 guys that pop, say they're coming. That no matter if it's, we know all 5 of them are good because we're recruiting them. Now there's one you probably want, but you really, really want. But again, that's too bad. If the 2 other guys say they're coming, that's what it is.
Charlie McBride's with us Monday with Charlie. Coach, we're up against it clockwise, but can't wait to run you down next Monday one more time before the new year and get ready for the bowl game. How's that sound?
Well, it sounds good getting ready for the bowl game.
I know.
It does.
That's for me. I really think that's a good deal, and I'm really happy for all the kids. I just, and a lot of times, what I just wanted to say one thing about a lot of times, you want to be sure you're not recruiting cancer.
Right.
Because you're getting a guy that starts, and once that starts spreading on the team, they, kids listen to people. They listen to each other, and you gotta really keep on top of it.
Coach, that's good stuff. Appreciate you much. We'll holler next Monday. All right.
Okay. I'll be here, I hope.
See you, Coach.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. Blackshirt Hour continues. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Part of Big Red Wrap-Up, it's Jay Moore at JMoore44. And he is en route, not to the quarterback. Jay, where are you going?
I am just running a couple errands around town. I actually just left Walgreens. Had to stop by and pick up a notification for Mama Bear and head back to the office. So just wrap up the day.
I love it. Jay is with us. In or out on Thursday Night Football. The last time Nebraska played in Arrowhead, you were on the field a few moons ago.
Love it. I love the idea. Actually, I'd known about it for a while when we had Troy Dannon on Big Red Wrap Up, about a month ago. He showed up to the studio 20 minutes before we went on, and we were just chit-chatting, and somehow that topic of conversation came up, asking about Indy and the Cincinnati game. He goes, actually, that's going to be in Kansas City for sure. We're just kind of, at that time, they're just trying to figure out if it's going to be on a Saturday or a Thursday, but they're trying to get it moved to a Thursday because there's a home Royals baseball game that Saturday night as well. So just to not have the mess of fans at Kaufman, fans at Arrowhead, joining up together. So obviously that got changed, it got moved, and I'm excited about it. I'll do my best to make the 2.5 hour commute down there and watch, the first game of the third year of the Matt Rule era. So it's I love it. It's going to be about an 80-degree temperature difference, I would imagine, between the Big 12, the 2006 Big 12 championship compared compared to what that game time will be at August 28th. So that it's cool. Happy they got that figured out. Happy they got it announced, and it's awesome to have this kind of Kansas City connection. That's kind of been the deal here the last couple months with Dawson Merritt, and then obviously getting Brad from the D-line coach with the Chiefs, and it's a good thing to. Obviously, the Chiefs have been the best team in football for a while now. We'll keep rocking with that success story they've had.
Well, Jay, you went straight from the source and figured out Arrowhead on a Thursday night. Get this, Schmidt and I are over in the suit Rob Kelly's office last week, and we're looking at the schedule, trying to figure out how we're going to make it out to Arrowhead, and Rob pulls up the Kansas City Royals schedule, and he goes, my Tigers are playing Saturday. And they're at home that week, and he's like, there's no way they could have both those games in the same parking lots on the same day. So we, that day, scheduled our hotel room for Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, assuming the game was going to be on one of those days. And look at that. We did it the good old-fashioned way with...
Got lucky.
Yeah.
That's a good job. That's a good job foreshadowing, That's just giving... that was some good... CSI work by you guys.
Well, Thursday night to open the college football season, Arrowhead going to be incredible. The money will go to Cincinnati because it's technically their home game, but it'll be full of Big Red fans. Jay, we got to put a tailgate together because I think where we're staying, all we got to do is roll down the hill to get to the parking lot. That said, we can pack a table. Elijah's got a generator that's been to Norman, and we can do a pregame show. And if need be, we can even sit the old microphones on top of a cooler, clearly moving the microphones to open said cooler. But I'm thinking an Arrowhead parking lot tailgate show.
Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't you guys? That's I think the stars have just aligned to get that done. It sounds like a fantastic idea.
Well, boom! There we have it. The first Real Red reaction show of people tributing the Bills Mafia in a Husker win.
And Justice, as we plan this out, you're already good to be in studio that day, right? He gives us the thumbs up.
That wasn't his thumb. He was giving us. But, yeah. So, good. Thursday, college football 2025 is planned. Good work, Jay Moore. Let's stick with Kansas City. And we haven't really talked to you since the Braden. I mean, we don't have official news on Braden, but Jay Bird, in watching the NFL, knowing the league like you do, playing in it, your take on Braden and his potential impact if things go to form here with him moving in to be in Nebraska's defensive line coach. I mean, we've seen enough on social media that the only thing missing is the announcement.
I think the hire's great. I know people are going to look at it like he hasn't been to a bunch of different places, hasn't been involved in college football a lot, but you've coached with one of the best franchises the last decade, and you've been a part of where every college athlete wants to go, and that's the NFL. So that's a recruiting weapon to have that. And you can speak to working with Chris Jones, working with Steve Spagnuolo, who's been one of the brightest and best defensive minds in all of football. So I love the hire. I love his ability to communicate to players and recruits about what it takes to play at the next level. And just to kind of tie that all together with, hey, this is how we did it. This is how we did it on Sundays. And if you want to play on Sundays, this is where it needs to be. This is what kind of level you have to be at. But also, there's got to be, I think, the relationships that get developed within the staff, the defensive staff with Coach Rule. That's got to be important too. So I think it's a great hire. I don't know much about him. I haven't met him, but I liken it. I was coached by John Blake at Nebraska, and John Blake was the D-line coach for the Dallas Cowboys with Barry Switzer, and hearing his stories about working with Leon Lett and Charles Haley and winning those Super Bowls back in the day, and Jerry Jones, and those are great. Kids, recruits, I loved hearing those stories. So being relatable in that fashion is awesome. So I'm all for it. Anytime you can get guys that spent time in the NFL, whether they've been successful or not successful, I think you can always teach and coach to your experiences in the NFL, because that's ultimately where every kid wants to go. Yeah, you want them to come to Nebraska and be a part of the program, but ultimately you want them to get them to that next level. And the more NFL guys you get, the better your team's going to be in college. So I think I applaud Coach Rule going that direction.
We smile about brother John Blake passed away too soon. There's a few John Blake stories that I've heard from Coach Switzer, and I can't share those on the air. But true or false, did you ever roll by Coach Blake's office and a recruit's in the room, and by chance, Brother John's talking to Coach Prime right in front of the recruits? I mean, did you ever witness that, or is that just urban legend?
No, I didn't. I'd heard he had so many people that he was connected with, and he could pull them up on the phone. And I'd heard about the Coach Prime and do that. I never saw it in person. Yeah, he'd get Jerry Jones on the phone.
Really?
When he needed to. Jerry Jones would take his phone call, and Barry Switzer, and a ton of guys that he'd been around a lot of good people, and I was if anybody had not had the pleasure of meeting Coach Blake, there's a reason why he was one of the best, if not the best, recruiters in all of college football, because he could make you feel so big and so confident, like you're the only person that mattered at that moment. And didn't matter if you're black, white, big, small, good, but he had that ability to relate and connect. He had that gift to gab and that powerful aspect to communicate. And he was special. He was something else. He was fun to be around. You wanted to play well for him. But no, I'd never had the opportunity to talk to Coach Prime or see that see it in action. But I'm not surprised by it any means.
Quickly here, Jay, just talking defensive line coaching, getting back to your original point, how different do you think it is from your experience to coach defensive line in the NFL when compared to college football? Is it nuanced difference? Is it pretty much the same thing? How do you see that?
No, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. There's not much a 3 technique's a 3 technique, a 5 technique. The pass rush moves are the same. You have to play with great pad level, hand placement, have good feet. It's effort. All that stuff's all the same. I think maybe the main difference is from college to the NFL is just the aspect of knowing what offenses are trying to do to you. I think you're part of good D lines. You understand, especially in the NFL, you understand blocking schemes, pass pro schemes. And so I think good D line coaches that came from the NFL are able to get that information down to the college players, younger players sooner, which is a benefit for your college guys. So early they know, if the back's offset over here, where's that center going to slide in this pass protection? Hey, if this tackle, this tight end, they're aligned like this, what are they trying to do to you? So those little things that can make all the world of difference in diagnosing a play before it happens, that's huge. And that's what makes good D-lines great and good defensives great, is knowing those little details. So there's really, from coaching it, technique perspective, it's all the same. It's just really separating yourself from understanding the why offenses are trying to do certain things to you. That's what I learned from just my time spent at Nebraska and then going to that next level. Football's football. Still 11 guys going against 11. But now it's just understanding how they're trying to attack you, and you're just trying to set yourself up pre-snap to give yourself the best opportunity to win. And you're just trying to predict and just play that cat and mouse game with opposing offenses to give yourself the best opportunity to win on whatever down it may be. That's really what separates. That's kind of the learning curve for younger players stepping in the league, is just trying to get up to that speed as quick as possible. And I think that's a nice thing, having an NFL guy in your system and in your meeting room, is he's able to relay that information much more quicker to those younger players in a college meeting room.
Jay Moore is with us. Hail Varsity Radio. Blackshirt Hour continues at JMoore44 on Twitter is where you can follow him. Big Red Wrap Up. Jay, I know you guys did kind of the class recap last week on Big Red Wrap Up. As we look at kind of this new normal in college football with free agency and the portal, 10 guys projected to be shuffling through Lincoln this week, and it varies from some Big Ten programs to some smaller schools, and you've got a couple of schools of thought. One, you've got these prime positions where it's a bidding war for a guy like World, the offensive tackle that has produced at a Mountain West level. You've got guys in quarterback and Davila from Purdue that you want, that has some really good schools that had recruited him out of high school. And then you've got some smaller school guys and kind of the Signetti route where you get guys from a lower level that come up and ball at a higher level. I think of Samaje Toure for Nebraska in recent memory. If Jay Moore is getting the phone call, where do you go? Do you look at some of those younger guys or smaller school guys that are hungrier, perhaps, to prove it on a bigger stage? Do you go with guys that have played better competition? How would you go about solving this math problem?
Yeah, I think if I'm put in this scenario, I think what Curt Signetti did at Indiana, you got to take what he's done in his philosophy, and you got to try to mimic that. So I think how he's able to, when he's at JMU, got guys from their other places, and his whole philosophy, I want producers. I want guys who are winners and who have played at a high level. It didn't necessarily mean it had to be at a Big Ten, ACC, SEC level. It's like, no, you're producing at a high level and you're winning, I want that aspect. I want that culture. I want that mindset to come in here, because if doesn't matter where you've done it before, but I want that mindset here. So I'm looking at, you might look at some younger, ideally get the younger guys who have produced, but if you want guys that come in and can help fill a gap in a year or over a 2-year period, you got to get guys who have done it and have produced. You can look at guys who, I think Nebraska has done this in the past, and I don't necessarily think it's worked, is you've gotten guys from other bigger schools that were big-time recruits that had all the measurables, had all the talent come out of high school, but it didn't work out at a Georgia or wherever other bigger schools, and you kind of thought maybe they could develop them and get them over that edge and get them to produce. But maybe there's a reason why they're not producing at the schools that they were at previously. So I'm looking at, give me those guys, whether it's the wide receiver position, cornerback, running back, offensive line, wherever it may be, that has been put in those live situations, in those real game situations, and has done it at a high level. And I don't care if it's at a lesser of a competition or a lesser of a school. There's still something to it, to where you've done it and you produced and you were successful when it matters, because that's what's most important. You can do it in high school, you can do it in practice, but can you do it in games when it matters the most and all the eyes are on you? So I'm going that way, and I'm following Kurt Cignetti's philosophy to a T, because obviously there's some validity to it, and we can see it. They're playing in the college football playoff Friday night. So I'm going that route first and foremost, and then kind of working my way down from there.
Jay, does it surprise you that we're at this point, the offseason post-2024, headed into 2025, and we're still talking about Nebraska trying to learn how to win? Are you surprised we're at this point?
No. Winning's hard. I've had conversations with people, just talking about the craziness of the offseason, and I just told them, hey, winning's really hard. And when you haven't won as much here in the last 8 years, it's hard. It's tough, and guys get, the mentality of it all. Guys' confidence levels. That's the biggest thing. I think we're dealing with. Confidence hasn't been high, so no, I'm not surprised, but I think we're getting there. I'm not panicked by any means. I think this team and this roster had enough talent to at least have a couple more wins, and we can have that argument and go through all the close one-score losses. Which one, could have been 8-4, right? 9-3. But it's hard, man. It's hard. You got to go through these close wins or these close losses and learn from it and know that. I think Nebraska's now to the point, I feel this, and finally say this more comfortably, that it's not as much about a talent thing anymore. Nebraska has the guys. Nebraska has the bodies, and I think the skill set to finally compete at the top of the Big Ten and get itself back up into the echelon of college football. It's just Nebraska's got to start doing these little things right, and it's nothing crazy. It's getting a long snapper who can snap the ball. Having your secondary, if it's cover 4, cover 3, cover 6, whatever. Hey, do those coverages and don't do something else. It's your receivers. Catch the ball. I mean, it's just simple things. So those little things are a difference in two to three losses throughout the year. So not surprised. It sucks that you look back on it and kind of what could have been. But again, it is what it is. I always got to operate in that black and white. They're 6-6. Could have been better. Maybe it could have been worse. But they've got an opportunity to get one more win and carry momentum into this next year. And I think the next, this year 3 is going to be very, very important to get this momentum going in the right direction.
Jay Moore's with us, Blackshirt Husker NFL, our Big Red Wrap-Up. Jay, we'll get you out on this, but want to end on the mentality part. A team with a little bit better mentality and winning track record. Yeah, you beat Colorado. You hung with Ohio State. You got blown out by Indiana. You lost by a thumbnail to Indiana, make that Iowa and Illinois. if you can get that mentality corner turned, we're talking about a whole new ball game record-wise, aren't we?
Yeah. And I think the mentality is there. I think the guys are preparing the right way. I think it's really, really close. I don't think it's that far off, to be honest. And I'm not trying to blow smoke or here we go into another offseason where the Kool-Aid is at its strongest, but I don't think it's that far off. I can see things. I think the pieces are getting put together from the offensive aspect, the coaching aspect. I think some key pieces were kept on the defensive coaches after we saw some guys leave, and some guys, with getting Keona Davis back and getting Emmett Johnson back. That's big. It's just it's so hard because I've been there where you think things are slipping away, but you're able to battle back. It's so easy to mentally to go like, oh, here we go again. But you continue to battle back until where it almost is like it just doesn't pop up into your mind anymore. And you have to kind of go through these situations of here we go again, but you're able to battle your way out of it. Now, whether or maybe you came back and won, but you have to go through that mentality to kind of get it out of your mind and to where it's not, you're not going there. You're just battling and you're just doing your job. You're not feeling sorry for yourself, and you're not pouting. You're just going out and playing to your best ability. And I think they're close to getting through that threshold of that mental block that teams have and Nebraska's had winning football games. It's the close games. So, like I said, it's close. It's 6 and like I said, it could have been easily 9-3 this year. And how vastly different are we talking about this team? At 9-3 versus 6-6. So I'm happy. I'm excited about where things are going. I'm excited to watch them play here in a couple weeks against Boston College. And I even with the departures, coaching changes, whatever it is, I still think Nebraska's in a fantastic situation. I'm excited about it. I think Coach Rule is a hell of a football coach and the right man for this job. And we're continuing to see tweaks and changes throughout this year, next year, with roster development and roster changes. But I tell you what, I like where things are headed and where things are trending, obviously into year 3.
Jay will holler next Monday. Get your thoughts on BC, Nebraska. Appreciate you, brother.
Yep, sounds good, boys.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Monday. Make sure you get the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio. And take us with, like and subscribe. Just search Hail Varsity Radio, Hail Varsity YouTube. And find Elijah on Twitter at Herbal Essence, at Justice Rhody on Twitter, at Schmidt_radio for me. Good stuff from Coach McBride. Great stuff from Jay Moore. And, of course, Tim Verghese inside Nebraska getting things kicked off. Tomorrow we will check in with Papa Searles. Excited for that. Jay Moore with his NFL perspective. Of course, Searles with his NFL perspective. Also the agent perspective. And thoughts from Searles on the Big Red. Not only portal season, fellas, but looking forward to the bowl game. Mitch Sherman will be with us, and then Michael Bruntz will join us. We are not far away from Supernovas volleyball, and Novas Nation, check in and log on. Supernovas.com, the 2025 season here. Professional volleyball champs, the Omaha Supernovas, ready to defend that crown. Don't miss out on the championship celebration unlike any other. And join the Novas for the home opener Friday, January 10th at CHI in Omaha, as they'll get ready to lock horns with the Atlanta Vibe and help raise that championship banner. Get ready to watch world-class talent, Olympians, champions of the NCAA realm, All-Americans plus, and the pro debut of local superstars from right here in this volleyball state. Tickets on sale now, so log on, supernovas.com, and get your spot for history today. That opener, again, circle it Friday, January 10th at CHI. Supernovas against the Atlanta Vibe.
And I
got a must-see.
And I did see, talk about local superstars. Allie Batenhorst made it back to Omaha. She was obviously up at USC for a season, got drafted by Omaha. She's back in Omaha gearing up for the new season as well. So another familiar face. Good to have her back in Nebraska.
Nope, fantastic. Supernovas.com, where you log on, where you check it out. NFL action, Denver at 9-5 now. Look at you.
It's the first winning season from the Broncos since they won the Super Bowl.
Peyton Manning era?
Since they won the Super Bowl. They had gone on a string of...
Is that 2015?
16.
16?
It was a 2015 season, but 2016 Super Bowl.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it was 9 consecutive losing seasons, which is...
Yeah, Cam Newton should have jumped on the football.
They still wouldn't have won that football game.
Well, they still
Don't
should have
kid
jumped
yourself.
on it.
They still wouldn't have won it. So
I didn't like the blowout, but I wasn't sad to see Cam...
It wasn't necessarily a blowout.
Bleep the bed.
It ended up being,
Cam guy.
was it 24-14? I should know that. The one that always stands out in my memory is 43-8 against the Seahawks. It's just
when the snap went over Peyton's head. Yeah. Wasn't his fault.
And then the Percy Harvin return. Everything was just a disaster.
That was bad. That was bad. Junior and Mama were loving it, though. They were in their Seattle gear.
And so now Broncos can clinch Thursday night, which leaves me in a tough predicament because the Broncos can clinch. They're playing the Chargers Thursday night. With a win, they clinch a playoff berth, which would be massive. But on the flip side, yes, I have Husker volleyball.
Did you see a world where Tampa would go put up 40 on a Jim Harbaugh-led team?
Baker Mayfield's that dude.
Baker's having a great year.
Let's go back to the Friday forecast. I don't think I had them putting up 40.
I had Tampa winning, didn't I?
No.
No, I had him covering. I had him covering.
You had him covering. I was the lone team that had Tampa Bay winning.
Okay.
I in fact went 100% on my picks from the Friday forecast, if anyone was keeping track. I got Navy.
Too bad you weren't at Ameristar.
Got Navy. I got Tampa Bay. I got...
That was way off with Army.
What's the one I'm forgetting about? Oh, I got the Bills over the Lions.
Yeah, that was a shootout.
Not
Loved
too
it.
bad.
Back tomorrow at 4 on Hail Varsity. Thanks.